Hello, this is Mistress Quinn, and this is Sex Work Resources. This is also an adult podcast. This is about sex work. This is for adults only. So if you get offended, you should get out of here. And actually, today's episode is a little extra spicy, so this is going to be a little bit different. Before I get into the details of what transpired, I will say that this is a bigger discussion, and at this point, I can see both sides. So I'm gonna tell you what happened, and then tell you about the different sides of the argument, and I might give some of my opinions along the way. I'm gonna try not to give too much, because the point of this episode really is to highlight this, how do I put it? This dilemma that some, especially fetish creators, might struggle with. I don't hear this talked about anywhere. So really, my purpose with this episode is to explain both sides, and then you make your own choice about how you want to operate within your own business. So the situation, I made a post advertising my black dildo. I have gotten a lot of requests for getting a black dildo, so I eventually put it on my wish list, and then someone who was into having a fantasy with that thing got it for me off my wish list. It is way bigger than any dick is likely to actually be sized at. It is also hyper realistic looking. Anyways, so I posted an advertisement for that saying my PC dildo was ready for anyone who was ready for it, kind of, something like that. So then I got a message from this sex worker that said, hey, wasn't sure if you're aware, BBC is considered no bueno due to racial fetishization of black folks. And then I replied, yeah, I know. There's quite a lot of very unpolitically correct slang that is used in porn, not to mention all the kinks associated with consensual non-consent. But those are still, unfortunately, the most commonly used search words, so I think it would be bad for my business to limit myself to only using ethically sound hashtags and keywords in my advertising. This was my just kind of knee-jerk reaction. I always try to be respectful to other sex workers that I interact with, because honestly, we need all the help that we can get. We need to support each other. But I will admit, I did feel slightly annoyed when I wrote this, so I could have written it in a kinder way. They responded and said, gotcha, period. Choosing to use BBC is fair game for black creators only, period. Not all money is good money. At this point, I just blocked this person because my blood was starting to get hot, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And I have the feeling that this creator just wanted to argue with me, and I'm so sensitive. This would ruin my whole day if I had an argument with this person. So I just decided to block and just say, I'm not even going to do that. Protect my peace, that sort of thing. However, it was already too late, because I was like, is she right? Do I need to rethink my entire business? And it was I just had this really conflicting feeling. You know, I care a lot about minority groups, no matter what the minority group is. If I hear someone talk from experience of a minority group I didn't even realize was a minority group, boom, automatically I want to at least contribute to the best day that you can have that day, right? I just want my interactions with other people to be positive and help and not hinder their happiness and quality of life. What is my point? Right, I was wondering, is she right? Normally, I would be all about absolutely, BBC is 100% a fetishization of black folks. And when I was in university, I took a social science degree, getting a bachelor's in international politics. So I had a lot of historical education. I never got my master's, but I wanted to get my master's in international development, and I was in some international development volunteer stuff while I was in university. So I was very interested in particularly Africa. I have been in Algeria a couple of times, also been in Sierra Leone to collect data for a research project. And being in university on this level, I know a lot of colonialization history, and there's very little history on different African areas that is like pre-colonialization, because history has just been like wiped by the colonial powers. I feel like I'm getting off track. Okay, let's pull it back. I know that Black folks are fetishized. Their bodies are fetishized, and that has been used over and over again for a really long time to cause a lot of pain and to justify terrible things. And before I was ever in sex work, I would never imagine myself and doing some of the things that I do as part of my job, because, yeah, I don't want to contribute to, hurting people. So I have this desire to not make anyone's life any worse. In fact, I want to make people as happy as I can while I'm on this earth. But at the same time, I am in this business that is by nature politically incorrect. I don't support rape, but I'm not gonna lie, I find it kind of sexy when it's consensual. I don't know, I like to pretend it's not, but that doesn't mean I'm down with it. And my skin has kind of thickened as I have evolved my niche to become more and more fetish. And I've had clients that are interested in more and more, I guess, kind of fucked up niches. And I guess I just kind of saw it all as, this is fantasy life. This isn't real life. So my values outside of porn is going to be different than what I'm willing to play with inside of porn. But yet at the same time, I don't want to hurt anyone. And it sounds like I potentially am doing things and posting things that could hurt people, especially within this theme that I cared so much about, that I wanted to make a difference on the world level when I was going to university and I wanted to change the world, right? So I just felt so conflicted. So I went to my favorite sex work community, CEO Society. This is my favorite online sex work community. And everything that I have been a part of in CEO Society has been really positive. People have just been so supportive. There is no gatekeeping, there's no judging, there's no drama, and I have just really appreciated the culture that has been cultivated within this space. So since I have this dilemma, I took it to CEO Society. I guess I'm telling you a lot more of my opinions than I meant to. Anyways, let's carry on. I will read you what the post said. I'm not going to mention any names, but of course I don't mind telling you what I contributed to. So I will tell you that this was my post. I said, "What's your take on keywords that aren't politically correct?" I had another sex worker message me after making a post about, quote, BBC. She messaged me saying, BBC is no bueno because it fetishizes Black folks, which is true. But there are a whole boatload of unethical search terms that are used in porn, for example, forced gay. And it feels like bad business to limit myself to only using ethically sound hashtags and keywords. She went on to say BBC should only be used by Black creators. I feel that porn is never going to be politically correct, especially in BDSM, where things that are illegal become okay under the establishment of ongoing consent. The taboo is what makes it sexy. But I'm also all about supporting my colleagues, especially the Black and LGBT folks. The fetishization of Black bodies is a long and terrible history involving colonialism and used to dehumanize and justify terrible actions for a really long time. And outside of porn, I would 1000% agree with this take. But this isn't civilian life. This is an industry built on sexual fantasies, taboo topics, don't get me started on step family stuff, and the freedom to express desires that would normally not be okay. So I feel like I'm okay with using these terms, but I'd love to hear y'all's take on using unethical search terms, and more specifically, unethical search terms that are some of the most commonly used keywords in porn. Side note, this creator was not a Black creator. This is going to be a long one, I'm not going to lie. You guys are going to be sitting through, if you are interested in this and want to hear both sides of this, you're going to be sitting in this podcast episode for a little while. Okay, let's go. So there are two sides to this. There is the side that says, this is your business. Sex work is already a taboo place within society. And there's the side that says, this is porn. It's not politically correct. We sell fantasies. Don't worry about it. And then there's the side that says, actually, these terms do hurt people. They hurt other Black creators. And I just don't think it's okay to use any sort of language that can cause anyone pain. I think that side of the argument also says cancel culture is real and they don't want to put their business in jeopardy by engaging in some of the more controversial niches, such as, but not limited to, race play. So let me just read a couple of things from each side. So first, let me do the side that says, this is porn, do what you want. This person says, my take on it, fetish is not supposed to be politically correct. We sell fantasies that people cannot get in real life. We embody taboos and things that are not the norm because that makes them sexier. We toe the line of uncomfortable because you don't see that every day. BDSM, fetish, kink is all supposed to not be normal, and that's okay. Bringing politics into sex just makes it taste bad. This person went on to say, I hadn't read your last comment before I finished typing about the creator not being a black creator, but that does seem to be the temperature of the PC crowd, those being offended who have no business being offended by it. Personally, I block anyone who tries this with me. I am selling and showing a character out here. This is not my actual persona. Do they try to argue with actors who have portrayed slave owners in films? It makes no sense. Another person has this. Okay. This person says, sex work itself stands as very not politically correct. Fetish and kink are the same by nature. So why, when in an industry that is not correct and a niche within that is not correct is in quotes both times, why should those who operate in that space limit themselves to political correctness? Part of the beauty of this industry and being our own businesses is that we have the opportunity to work and represent ourselves however we so please, and however is profitable and optimal for us as individuals. I personally don't think we should limit ourselves to, quote, correctness by others' standards, but rather to our own chosen boundaries. I will say for myself, race play is on my limits, whether positive or negative, but that is only my boundary and never something I would impose on another person. Don't yuck someone's yum or method of getting their rent paid. See? Oh my goodness. That would be my cat having the zoomies. Scared the crap out of me. Let's also read this one. This is from a comment from a black creator whose perspective is just super valuable in this conversation. So they say, as a black creator, terms like BBC or even ebony do not offend black people to any level near what white allies, quote, allies claim is offensive. What's even more interesting is that though these people will white knight such a non-issue, they most likely do nothing in their day-to-day lives to help improve the plights of people of color in any meaningful manner. Give no attention to these people that raise a flag to these terms in this industry, as they're just trying to build clout on a platform of combating racism, quote, combating racism, that black creators have never raised an issue about, as far as I can tell. And even if another black creator comes to you saying these terms are offensive to them, you can be sympathetic, but the industry is not poised to change acceptance of it anytime soon, nor are other black creators shying away from using these lucrative keywords. People can choose not to use certain non-PC words in their everyday life, and there are many that come to mind personally, but porn is not about everyday life, it's for selling fantasies, and so if a client asks for certain words, depending on the word, I'll oblige them and use it. Okay, that was the one side. Let's look at the other side. What do I have? Okay, so this is a comment from another black creator. I just love that there are perspectives from different kinds of creators on both sides of this. Okay, let's see. They say, as a black person, I don't like seeing non-black people use terms like BBC because it doesn't relate to you. Unless your scene partner allows that phrasing, you have no business using the term, clicks or not. I feel this way for any race-related verbiage. I know I'm fetishized, so I prefer to use it on my own terms. That's my take. Okay, I think she had a little bit more to say. I responded saying that it was a dildo I was using it for, and I asked some questions like, in my context, okay, I'm just going to read it. I said, in my context, I have a black dildo bought for me by a client, which is what I'm referring to when I use the keyword BBC dildo. Would it be better to write out big black dildo when advertising content with it? Is it different because I'm referring to an object rather than a person? Is there a way to advertise this in a way that doesn't rub people the wrong way? Are black dildos off limits to white creators, or is advertising black dildo content off limit to white creators? And then I said, I'm sorry if I'm asking obvious, difficult, or offensive questions. This is such a difficult situation to figure out what the right or wrong thing to do is, especially as someone that doesn't have the black perspective, and this isn't something I can just Google. And so they responded saying, I'm assuming you're using a human-colored dildo, because if so, I would say yes, just phrase it as big black dildo, or maybe something like ebony. It's less offensive and aggressive than BBC. If you're not using a human-colored one, then you just say big dildo. You don't even have to use a color descriptor at all, to be honest. If it's big, then it's big. To me, at least. I get wanting to maximize your reach, but again, it's not worth it to me when it's affecting others. I think that that's like such a valid point. It's not worth it when it's affecting others. She ended saying, I know it's stressful to feel like you have to be correct all the time, but we're never able to please everyone. It's great that you asked others because you want to be sure you're on the right track for yourself personally. That's all we can do. See if I can find another voice on that side. Yes. So this person says, personally, cancel culture and obscenity cases scare the hell out of me, and public opinion could ruin my business far faster than my own opinion could grow it. And things that are taboo tend to make me feel icky as well. So I stay as far away from things I think are borderline as possible. While I, quote, rebelled by labeling every interracial pairing as IR, but now racial terms or phrasing related to skin color have no place in my content whatsoever. Not in keywords, description, or speech. I fuck hot people. That's it. I also don't use words like, these are also terrible words, which I don't like using these. Tranny, she-male, or young. I really get that. I don't like using the word teen either in my descriptions, even though that's pretty commonly used. So they go on to say, I don't think it's necessary. My content focuses on happy and consensual pleasure-based sex between adults, and that's how I describe it. This past year, I did start doing a bit more mommy-leaning content, but any familiar tilt would need to be implied by the user as I don't explicitly state it. If a viewer needs to fetishize my content in a box I'm not putting myself in, they can do so in the DVDs and free scenes I don't control. But for my own content, it is very important to me that I am constantly striving to be better and more defensible. My motto for porn has always been, don't do something for money you wouldn't do for free in the right circumstances. And I think that definitely applies here. Let's get another person in here that is on that side so that we can be balanced. Okay, so this is actually the same creator, and then they just commented again. They say, making further good points, they say, I can completely empathize with pursuit of the bottom line and the beauty of wanting porn to be just between the creators and consumer and a nuanced exploration of human sexuality. That's why I charge basement rates and treat my subs like my friends. But we are in an extremely public industry that is constantly vilified by outside sources. How many states have Pornhub blocked? We also work almost entirely online, and in my opinion, it is dangerous to assume that anything we do is not being recorded and archived. How much, quote, bad behavior from celebrities and politicians, and even just regular people that they thought was secret has come to light even decades later. Sorry if I read that last sentence in a way that was confusing. They are essentially saying how much behavior often comes out about people decades later. Most creators don't do fan signs anymore because they can so easily be edited. I don't know, man. I'm not going to wind myself up anymore in here, and don't think I'm going to change anyone's mind, but just be conscious and careful. There are others in here. There's some neutral opinions in here, like, I don't necessarily do that sort of content, but others should do as they please. But yeah, so that is the argument. What do you think? What do you think is, I don't know. I'm giving some of my opinion here. I think that the best thing to do as a sex worker that is listening to this is to really hold space in your mind, in your soul for both arguments. Understand the effect that you could have on people with controversial type advertising. And if you really believe that you understand that level and you look at the pros and cons, and you decide to go with being controversial and and using keywords that could offend people because it makes you money or whatever reason. I think it's just great that you took the time to hear the other side and process it and then come out with, your own decision on the other side. It would be different if you wanted to, in my opinion, if you wanted to use these terms and you just completely ignored the fact that you might be hurting other people. I think it's important to, when we notice that we feel conflicted, to explore it and to not push away different thoughts, like different ways of viewing something. So even though it's uncomfortable, seriously think about the impact that this could have on whatever group of people it could have an effect on. I have been taking the last couple of days thinking about how I wanted to present this on here, because I knew that I did, because it's just been taking up so much space in my head. And something I keep kind of thinking about are other sort of controversial niches in adult. Like there's step-family porn. Oh my gosh, step-family porn is everywhere. Like it is so common. It's like potentially the number one most common keyword in video titles. People could have been abused by their step-parents sexually, and that could be an issue for people. People that have been sexually abused by their step-parents could also find some kind of relief in that kind of porn. Sexuality is crazy. Like, the things that people want to explore are crazy. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I am a super feminist in my real life. Super feminist. I used to have trouble not being a man-hater. They make it so easy. Not all of them. And I'm not saying not all men, but I do know a couple of decent men, although the bar is on the floor. Anyways. And yet, even though I'm a mega feminist, I kind of find like kinks that have to do with like a woman being submissive and the man being really dominant or whatever really hot. But as soon as my clothes are back on, absolutely not okay. I make all the money. You do all the dishes. That's how I like it. No, not really. But I am right back to being a super feminist. There are other kinks like scat. I feel like I might get banned from Spotify if I talk too much about that. If you know, you know. That exists. Golden showers exist in the porn industry. Trans fetishization. Oh my gosh. I have a trans friend, and I actually asked her today if she wanted to have me interview her about her experience as a trans sex worker. We have talked about it, and there is like trans fetishization is huge. If you are a trans person, you stand to make so much money because that niche just has so many clients. LG, which stands for Daddy Dom Little Girl. And there is a whole group of people who just really love the fantasy of like a parent type dom. And I don't mean like an incest level. I just mean like someone who takes care of you on the level of like a parent, and then pretending to be little and young. And most of the time I feel like when I have encountered these groups, that's not even sexual. That's just adults having a good time playing house. There's not even sexual stuff in that. Sometimes there is, but it's not a parent and a child. It is two consenting adults. And God, I feel like that niche, that kink is extremely misunderstood. And the last one I'm going to mention here is ABDL, which stands for Adult Baby Diaper Lover. There are some people, adults, that like to de-potty train themselves and wear diapers. And there's a lot of adult baby diaper lover littles, people that pretend like they're young are called littles. There's also like little playtime where different people that like to act like they're little play with each other. Not like in a sexual way, like in a let's build Legos kind of way. And it's not even sexual at all. Sometimes it is for them though. You know, sexuality is weird. As long as, in my opinion, everyone is a consenting adult and there's no actual under 18 minors involved, then I think it's okay. Anyways, since this conversation has been had, I have been thinking about these extra niche, unethical, unpolitically correct, borderline offensive, unpalatable niches within porn. Like, unpalatable to the general public niches within porn. And I have been thinking, like, how do you operate within those spaces? And, you advertise, and if it's your job, you need to make your money and do that in a way that doesn't hurt other people. It's such a difficult niche to be in. Not to mention, within the sex work community, even though all sex workers have their story with shame, they all had to battle the stigma. There's a story there for every single one. And the sex work stigma that they had to battle before they could do their job in a way that felt okay. And some people are still battling it. And yet people within that community still find sex workers to judge. And this is people that have these more controversial niches that they operate within. There's also sex workers that say, I'm an online sex worker, so I am somehow better than an in-person sex worker. They're somehow dirtier or more shameful than me, right? People in marginalized communities oftentimes marginalize people within their own community, and that is unfortunate. But I've just been wondering how someone that operates within some of these more complicated niches, how they would feel reading this thread. So, okay, I wrote a little comment myself, and I write better than I talk, so let me just read that. It says, it feels like there's a lot of feeling passion behind many of these answers, which only makes me appreciate this space even more. We don't all agree, and we are all in different areas of adult and have different life experiences, which makes this discussion so valuable. I love that. I was just thinking about other, quote, unethical niches and their creators, family incest, scat, golden shower, CNC, trans fetishization, DDLG, ABDL, etc., and how they would feel reading this thread. I wonder if they'd feel accepted by the wider sex work community or feel free to give their perspectives. Being involved in the more fetish side of adult, I've wondered to myself if I'd be able to find an assistant who wouldn't judge the content I make. A lot of it can't be posted to OnlyFans because it's not credit card kosher. It's not palatable to the general public. And it's felt a little like I maybe shouldn't get too involved in sex work communities because I may be judged, even though we all deal with the stigma and don't want to be judged. At the end of the day, I've said to myself, fuck it, I deserve a community too. And I just hope any creators within the less common niches of adults see this conversation and feel that whether or not we agree, this is a safe place to find community and express your opinions. So this has been a super long episode, and it has been controversial. What do you think? Do you find areas of porn offensive? What do you think about those areas if you do? How do you feel about the creators within those areas? Do you think that there should be space for those creators in the industry? This is a tough conversation, and it's not one that I see had really anywhere. So I am just so thankful that it could be had here on CEO Society and that so many people contributed. This conversation, there's 35 comments, and many of the comments are from the same people. So this is by no means an example of where the entire sex work community stands on this topic, not even close. But I appreciate the perspectives that we did get in this. I'm sure that I'm not the only one that has come across this dilemma before. Yeah, I think I have rambled enough. Do I have any final thoughts? As far as what I am going to do in my own business, I'm going to keep that to myself because this is not supposed to be about me. And I don't want to make anyone feel like they're in the wrong for choosing one side or the other. And I feel like I could do that by saying definitively, this is where I would stand on this. The important thing for me with this episode is that it can be as inclusive as possible and that we can talk about these difficult topics in a way where we can disagree and still feel safe. I think I'm going to end it on that note. Until next time, I'll see you on the flip side.